Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another Quips and Thwips, a Spider Man podcast. I am joined today by the illustrious Stanley of fan films, V Man himself,
What's up,
and
guys?
and the reclusive Daniel Block himself.
Oh,
So today we are going to be talking. Me and V Man Block. If you hadn't seen, me and V Man were talking about leading up to No Way Home. I've got a very stark criticism for Toby Maguire Spider Man, and he wanted to dive into that. And so we were kind of just talking like, well, why don't we just talk about the movies leading up to the new one? And I don't know how we're going to do this because we got what, like 3 weeks left now. So I mean, we'll probably do like, I don't know. We'll do Spider-Man 2 next week, Spider-Man 3. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
right.
There is no format here. Even if we talk about all three of the movies here today, I don't really care.
Sure.
All I know is that I will explain to everybody why I hate Tobey Maguire, and it's boiled down to one line. Well, two lines technically. Who am I? Do you really want to know? Every time I hear that, I just want to throw something at my screen.
He got really creepy, like really nasally, really close to the thing, and really creepy. I like it. Let's see. We need you to do the voiceover. Fuck Toby.
I hate that his Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Anyway, so all right, so let's start off.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I think that needs to be like your signature at the end of every show. Who am I? Do you really want to know? I'm cousin Cheeto. Like that needs to be your signature at the end of every show. Fuck yeah, that's yeah. See, it's two against one. Oh, see, yeah, I like it. I like it.
That's because the block just wants to wring my nuts is what he wants to do. Ring them like this. All right, so I'm not gonna lie. I was supposed to watch this movie before we did this, and I've seen the movie many, 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 many times. But I was gonna do a refresher, maybe take some notes. I didn't because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with Tobey Maguire. I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I remember the movie very clearly, but I just couldn't do it.
So,
Um,
so, so let me get this straight. You've seen it many, many times.
mhm.
You can't stand it, but yet you remember it vividly.
Because
Okay.
my kids like it,
Sure. Okay.
and it's a Spider-Man movie. So actually, no. Okay, so here's my thing: is like, well, okay, so V man, let's go into you. You like Tobey Maguire, right?
Well, okay. Here's the thing. For what was it, 2001, 2002 that it came out, if I remember correctly, because it came out when the first X-Men came out, and anyone that remembers that first X-Men, like all they did was wear like black leather. It was a very dark movie, um, very Wolverine heavy. This showed you that you can be light, happy, you know, heroic, kind of like Christopher Reeve's Superman. It was cool to be a light, happy hero. Toby Maguire was very nerdy. Um,
Mm,
um, I mean,
mm,
when you look at like Andrew Garfield, that guy was a cool hipster, type Peter Parker. He wasn't nerdy like Toby Maguire. So when I look at that Peter, especially when it came out then, I bought that. Now, I didn't really put it together then that, oh, this guy's aged considerably, higher than what he's cast for. I really bought it that, yeah, he's maybe, 17, 18, I bought it. Um, I had no problem with his acting. He acted age appropriate. For him and the world that they created, Harry Osborn, the friendship there, I bought that. Mary Jane, I wasn't too keen on her. I thought she was the only part about that movie that sucked. Um, I thought Aunt May. I mean, you want to talk about smoking hot Aunt May? There you go, right there. Not the current one. You talk her. Boom. I was the only one that was relieved when Uncle Ben was shot. I was like, ching, that's my shot. So but I mean, and Norman Osborn, fuck yeah. I mean, outside the Power Ranger suit, everything else about that character worked. So Tobey Maguire was just lumped in with that. So the nerdy kid, yeah, I bought it. I thought his acting style was pretty good.
and I just want to preface the fact that I didn't hate the movie. I hated Toby Maguire and Kirsten Dunst. My hate for Kirsten Dunst is less than Toby Maguire, but I don't like her as Mary Jane either.
No.
Like, all right, Block. What do you think about the 2002? What are your overall thoughts on the overall Spider-Man 2002?
First off, let me know if I ever need to mute my mic because I have some bad feedback occasionally. But yeah.
Nope, sounds good so far.
All right. So it was the big, as far as I'm aware of, besides X-Men, it was the first big comic book kind of movie. So
Yeah, we don't
like
count
our standards were set there. So we're like, oh, this is awesome. It's comic books come to life. I kind of agree with both of you as far as, well, I guess more you, Bobby, as far as the casting for Mary Jane and Peter Parker. Peter Parker, I mean, Tobey Maguire did kind of do a good nerd, but he never felt like a loser, if that would be the term. But as much nerdy as kind of that, like, he's more pathetic. And then after seeing, obviously, the new movies with Tom Holland, I believe he does a better nerdy Spider-Man, like a believable, everyday person that's like a Spider-Man. Whereas Tobey Maguire just came off as, I guess, an actor pretending to be Spider-Man. And then Mary Jane, Kristen Dunst, she did okay, but like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a big comic book guy, but when I think Mary Jane and, Peter Parker, I don't think of those two actors. Like, they're the furthest things from it.
I
And
felt like
as
Emma
far as a
Stone
villain,
acted
perfect
like a
casting.
better Mary Jane.
That's all I got.
Oh, I felt like Emma Stone acted like a better Mary Jane than as Gwen Stacy in the Amazing Spider-Man movies than actual, Kirsten Dunst.
Well, the chemistry was there between her and Andrew, and that was the one thing.
Yeah, it was.
In all three of the films, the chemistry just wasn't there between her and Toby. The thing is, and this is my feelings on Toby. I feel like Toby was a really good 1960s version of what a nerd was. He was kind of shy, kind of book smart. But then you get to Andrew's version of Peter, and he's kind of what the 90s/2000s version of a nerd was, which was kind of a loner type, skateboarding type, antisocial type guy. And then you get to Tom Holland, and he's kind of the modern version of what a nerd is. So I think when you look at each Spider-Man, I think they do a really good job portraying what Peter Parker was at a version of comic books. Kind of like when you look at Michael Keaton's version of Batman, and you look at Michael Keaton and he's a certain Batman. You look at Val Kilmer, he's a certain Batman. You look at George Clooney, and he's a certain Batman. And I think that's the way I look at each one of the Peter Parkers. I think with Peter, when he's in the actual costume, he feels very heroic, even though he says the one-liners, even though sometimes they're a little corny.
That's supposed to be, though.
Yeah. He sometimes they do feel a little forced, but out of the costume, he does have the natural chemistry with Harry Osborn. He does have chemistry with Norman.
I will give you that. He does have Tobey Maguire does have chemistry with James Franco and those two characters. I will give you that one with Tobey Maguire. And I like James Franco as Harry Osborn. Like, I had no problem with him at all.
Oh, absolutely. And that was he also has the chemistry between him, the Uncle Ben, I felt was there.
Yeah.
I felt like with him and Aunt May, I felt like it was there more in the second movie than it was in the first.
Agreed.
But I bought the relationship. And again, it wasn't necessarily the portrayal of him as a nerd that I necessarily bought, but more of a nervous kind of I don't know where I belong in the world. And then when he finds a Spider-Man suit, he still doesn't quite know, but he's trying to find his way. He's more of, okay, I know where to course correct, and here I'm going. And that's where I really bought the character of Peter Parker. And I feel like it really got good with the second movie. Whereas the first movie, his battle relationship, he's fighting robbers and all this stuff, and he's doing the Spider-Man stuff, and then all of a sudden he gets thrown this badass fucking the Green Goblin, which is probably the most horrific villain you could take on for your first major villain. To me, I felt like that was just a perfect thing to do for Toby Maguire, and I think
I don't think he faced the Green Goblin until issue number 5 in the comics. Like he had to go through the likes of like Sandman, Vulture, Chameleon, I think Electro, before he even got to Doc Ock. I think before he even got to Green Goblin. Green Goblin was actually a background character for a while. I think he debuted in number 5, but he didn't actually face off with them right away. I'd have to go back and look. It's been a long time since I looked it up, but. So Block, what are your thoughts about the chemistry between Toby and Kirsten? Since that's a great transition point where we go into that with Vance's nice little transition he set up for us there.
Kind of getting choppy on my end, so it's probably like me, but I'll just go ahead with this. As far as chemistry overall, like back to Toby Maguire, I just don't like how he always seemed like he was crying. Like I get, if, your uncle dies, you're gonna cry. I get that, your uncle. Like there's certain points where it's okay to cry as a man, but like it always seemed like anything that came up, he was ready to cry, or he got that puppy dog face. So like that just bothered me, I guess, all the time. His puppy. What do you mean, Mary Jane? Like
I can't do this, Mary Jane. Okay, I mean, and yeah, you're right. I mean, he was very cry-y. I will agree with you though, since you brought it up, Vance. A lot of things went right in Spider-Man 2 because Spider-Man 2 is so far my favorite Spider-Man movie. Now, in spite of Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 2, between the villains and the characters and all that other stuff, and even some of the acting and chemistry got better in the second movie. So the Spider-Man 2 is definitely one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. The thing with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is I probably would have been a little bit more on board. If this was supposed to be an adult Spider-Man right off the bat. I understand that we need his origin and yada yada, but I really feel like we should have been into a further adult, like maybe a mid-20s Spider-Man rather than like they did it right with Tom Holland. And I agree with you. I mean, Andrew Garfield looks younger than Tobey Maguire did, so he fit the bill of a high schooler a little bit better, but still, you've got guys in their mid to late 20s. Well, I think Toby was like 29 when he was filming the role of Spider-Man 1, playing a high schooler, and it's like, come on, like you can only do so many like comb over haircuts to make someone look younger, like
you can get a mullet wig like some fan filmmakers do. That would be awesome for Tobey Maguire. Get the mullet wig, trust me.
Mullet, yeah, I want to see mullet Spider-Man. That's what I want.
No,
so,
that's I love how I love how is it Block? Is it Block? I love how Block brings up the crying. It reminds me that Tobey Maguire is the Michael Burnham of the superhero universe. How they have to have towels constantly like dabbing the guy's face. It's just, and it reminds me of that meme where he makes the face. You did it perfectly because Cheeto. It's really sad that he is crying so much. Because the guy goes through a lot of shit. And I think that's one portrayal that they did do of Tobey Maguire is they appropriately did. In the first 2 movies, they put him through the appropriate amount of drama. They put him through killing the Uncle Ben, and then the second one they put him through, should I even be doing this? They didn't just have kill someone else and all that stuff. They appropriately did that. And the third one, they gave him the tragedy of the dancing scene. So there's enough tragedy to go around in the original trilogy.
I would like to. What was with that dancing scene? Did we really need it?
No.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about that dancing scene. So that was a Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire idea on like the day of filming, and it was like impromptu, and they did it, and they kept it, and I don't know why. The thing about the black symbiote, and I'm not trying to get into like a big discussion about the black symbiote, but the black symbiote's supposed to make Peter like an asshole and a temperamental jerk. It like in the animated series portrayed it pretty well, and the animated series Spectacular Spider-Man portrayed it even better, in my opinion. He doesn't get cocky and arrogant. He just gets moody and like.
Yeah, he just becomes like a nerdy James Dean. That's all I
maybe, maybe, I guess, but I mean, you know, that's not. I mean but that's not, you know, the whole arrogant dancing and the thing where he's trying to make Mary Jane jealous with Gwen, and I mean like that no, like he would have just like, you know, and there were points where he did do those things, like he like, you know, remember he got in a fight with the guy or whatever, and then he almost hit Mary Jane or no, he almost hit Gwen or something like that in the third one, and I'm like, that's more what he was like.
Did you just want to go and break down each one of the original trilogy, and then next week we can do the Andrew Garfield ones, and I then mean, like the third week we can go through.
The thumbnail's misleading anyway, so.
Okay.
I don't care. I mean, that's fine.
Okay, because I feel like we're really delving into like all of, you know, discussing Toby and all of the trilogy. And I'm really enjoying that aspect of it.
Yeah. So we only got 3 weeks anyway, so we got 3 different Spider-Men. So okay.
So I feel with Spider-Man 3, I really feel like the thing that worked with Spider-Man 2 is it added upon the first one. You know, it had the landlord guy, and it had his daughter, and she was kind of crushing on Toby, and you know, and everything, and it worked because you added a few extra stuff in. You had the continuing storyline with Harry, and everything seemed organic. You know, you had Doc Ock and you know, his story, like everything would just flowed. When you get to Spider-Man 3, that was a perfect example of the studio meddling, and nothing in that flowed. You had Gwen Stacy, which I still don't know why she was there. You had the Venom suit, which, you know, Venom should never pull back his face 15 million times to show that 70s guy.
Yeah, right.
You know, so, I mean, I had no problem with Venom being there. It's just, give us Venom. Like, do it right or don't do it. And at the time, I remember thinking, this could be great, but I now feel like if the director's not behind it, just don't do it. And a lot of people, you know, when you get to the, like you said, the dancing scene, everyone looks at that and goes, "This is so cringe." Why have that in there? You know, it's just.
Well, my thing is that it's cringe because it goes against what that version of Spider-Man is. Not because it, like, if Spider-Man was dancing in the comic books and like was like some arrogant like player at that point, okay, I'd be with it because I'd be like, all right, they're honoring the source material. No matter how cringe it is still honoring the source material. But when you get into like that, it's just like, no, they just took liberties that didn't need to be taken.
Right. Well, you get to the end of that story with him and MJ, and it's kind of just dropped. Like the whole story just kind of abruptly ends, and you don't know, you don't know anything about, like, I mean, did they get back together? Did they not? I mean, he saves everything. I mean, it's just why did you include Gwen Stacy outside of being just a plot contrivance? She's such an important character, and that, you know, that's one thing that the Andrews movies did. You know, with Gwen, it was so good. But I mean, I think when people look at the third Spider-Man, you know, it really taints the first two with Toby, you know, because I mean, he did really great, I feel, in the first two. And when you get to the third one, it's like, dude, are you even trying in this one? You know, because I don't know.
I think that's the point, is that I mean, I don't think that he's not trying, but I don't feel like it was a good fit overall. I really don't. And I mean, that's where me and you are just going to have to come to agree to disagree, because I don't feel like he was a good fit for Peter Parker or Spider-Man at all. And to me, it became more apparent over the movies. Like, as the movies went on, it became more and more apparent to me. By the third one, you're right. It was just I was done. I didn't even care. I wanted to go and see. I wanted to see Venom, and I wanted to see Sandman in that movie. You know, and I wanted to see Harry Osborn, Green Goblin, and unfortunately, we got all three of them. And
See,
Sandman was such a wasted character in that movie because it's like, he was so good, and they had a good actor and a good story setup. I would have taken a whole movie of maybe Sandman and Harry Osborn, and I know that's what they were going for.
See, I completely agree with you on Toby as the infected Peter Parker in the third one, because when looking at how the Venom, how the symbiote is supposed to infect Peter, and how he's supposed to be, how it's supposed to be kind of someone with a drug addiction, how it's supposed to be so consuming, and how that's supposed to just kind of consume you. And looking at that, I'm just like, dude, you're all over the place there. I can't read you at all. And that, every choice that guy makes, and taking the dance scene out of it, the only time I ever buy anything he does is when he's about to hit Mary Jane, I think. And that, when he comes to that realization of, oh shit, I buy that. But everything else in there, I don't. Because it's like, dude, are you playing this for laughs? Or are you playing this for serious? Because, I mean, for laughs, okay, you're now Adam West. If you're serious, you're Michael Keaton. Which one? Pick a road, stick with it. So I don't know what you're doing. In the first two, I know where you're at. In the third one, I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Well, but see, they have in Spider-Man 2, they have that scene where he's with raindrops are falling on my head. They always have some kind of stupid scene in there, and it's just like that one. Also, I was like, I can't with this. Like, fortunately for that movie, there's a lot of characters that salvage that, like Toby Maguire's idiocy in that movie, and there's less Mary Jane in that movie. So it's like I feel like it's all kind of salvaged with that. But Block, anything you want to add to what we've been saying, or?
Well, I was just gonna say it seemed like two separate movies, kind of like two TV movies combined, and then they decided to release it on theaters. I think it would have been fine if it was just like Spider-Man and Venom, and like it just seemed, well, I guess there was only Sandman and Green Goblin for part of it, but it did seem like it was too many villains, so it seems like he was taking like 15, 20 minutes. All right, I got to go beat this villain. All right, I got to go beat this villain.
Well, keep in mind that back then they didn't know how to use multiple villains. Like, I mean, nowadays we're used to it. We're like, hey, look, here's Thanos' army. Do you need a backstory on this guy? Nah, it's all right. He'll be dead soon anyway. With these villains in the Spider-Man movie back then, we weren't used to that. Now it's like we see 5 villains in the trailer, and we're like, that's it? Where's number 6?
It just seemed like there was 2 different teams of scriptwriters and 2 directors or something.
Well, yeah, one was the studio, and the other one was the actual director.
And then wasn't there going to be a Spider-Man 4, but he didn't want to do it because he's like, this movie's horrible. I never want to talk about it again.
Well, it wasn't horrible, but you talk about Spider-Man 3.
The director thought it was horrible. Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. I mean, he was in there. He casted John Malkovich as the Vulture back then. Yep. So apparently there was going to be like John Malkovich's is either his wife or his daughter was also supposed to be a version of the Vulture. And I don't know. I've heard many stories of the forgotten Spider-Man 4 movie. But yeah, I mean, and here's the other thing though, is that I really like the end fight scene, because here's one of the things. I didn't hate Spider-Man 3. I really didn't. I loved Sandman in it. I felt a lot of the characters were coming around full circle, including Mary Jane, even though I'm not fond of her. I still feel like she was going. Peter Parker was kind of meh in this whole thing. He was just kind of there. And you're right, Vance. He was kind of just in this movie to be the guy in the suit. To be honest, like you didn't have to show his face the entire time. He could have been walking around campus with a Spider-Man mask on. I wouldn't have cared.
Right.
But I love that end fight scene where it's Peter and Harry teaming up against Sandman and Venom, and I really wish they would have found a better way to get to that point. See,
that to me is the one thing about this movie. I don't feel that fit either. That whole storyline with that of, for a gee golly, I'm gonna go help Peter, my best friend. Like, all of a sudden, I mean, I know the guy who's got one foot in the grave, the butler.
Yeah.
You know, I know him who's saying, it was your dad who died by his own blade. It's like, dude, you waited 2 movies to say something like that, because you waited almost to the end of this one, so you waited basically 2 movies to say some shit. Like, dude, that's fucked up. You could have said something sooner. I mean, you couldn't have thought to say something. Harry's like going psycho. You could have said something. And then all of a sudden, on the flip of a dime, Harry's like, "Hey, good old buddy, old pal." It's like, I didn't buy the dialogue. I didn't buy the flip. Personally, I would have loved to have seen them meet up, one last time when he's like, "I need your help," and for the butler to say, "Look, dude, I'll be honest," for the butler to see both of them face to face and then say something, for him to say, "Look, dude, for real, get your shit together. He didn't kill your dad. Your dad did. Now get your shit together." And for Peter and, for them to have that heart to heart and bury the hatchet and say, "All right, let's go." Like, to me, I felt like both of them earned that moment, because for all the hatred and betrayal and mistrust and stakes going, for them to just be like, "Oh, no, doesn't matter." To me, that was just as repulsive as the dance scene. To me, I felt like when you build that tension, you need a better payoff than just Harry flying through the air. "Hey, pumpkin bomb." No, kill Mary Jane off at that point, because I don't buy it. So to me, okay. I felt
no, you know what, you've kind of won me over. You're right. I mean, I still like the scene. It was very fun to see Spider-Man and Harry team up. But you're right. I mean, from a story standpoint, you're absolutely right. It's it is. It's kind of counterintuitive of what they're trying to do with these 2 characters, and you're right, for him to just show up and be like, "Hey buddy," and Peter's like, "Okay, let's go."
Didn't you try to kill me? That's okay.
Yeah, I feel like they did that just for time, because they're like, "Oh shit, we've crammed 15 characters into this. We've really got to shave time off this budget. Let's just, okay, we're good. Let's go." And that's, to me, I felt like, man, just cut out Venom. You've already screwed him over. Like, just give us quality over quantity. So, I mean, I think we all were screwed on that one. They really should have made it into 2 movies. And I like your comment, Block, on this feeling like it's 2 TV, made for TV movies that were put in the theater. You're absolutely right. The quality is just not there. It's just not, man.
Yeah. All right. So, do you guys want to let's talk a little bit about Spider-Man 2? I feel like we haven't given it enough love, and it is my favorite Spider-Man movie, to be truthfully told. In spite of Toby Maguire being in it, it is my favorite Spider-Man. And everyone thinks like, "How come Tom Holland's Spider-Mans aren't your favorite?" Well, we'll get to those in a couple weeks when we do those ones. But I mean, this one, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock is everything I wanted in a Dr. Octopus. Conflicted, brilliant scientist that actually works well with Peter Parker. And, even though the whole self-sustaining sun thing was a little, gadawappy, I still thought that it was a very good portrayal of Doc Ock and, the conflict. And that train fight scene, I have yet to find a comic book movie outside of Endgame that beats that fight sequence, period. Like, that, if you watch the full extended version of that train fight sequence, what else do you need in a Spider-Man?
Like when they're just tumbling down in silence. That's pretty awesome.
Obviously, you haven't seen the opening scene to Batman and Robin, then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, eyes to see you. Don't let me give you the cold shoulder.
I think in the first one, it showed us a man that, needed a mask to do great things. In the second one, it showed us that the guy didn't need a mask. He chose to have the mask with him. And that to me was why this movie was better. He didn't need the mask anymore, but he chose to have it. And at the end of it, he chose to have the girl too. And, to me, I like this movie because, like I said, it expanded on the universe. You grow, there's a couple new characters in there. Peter's universe expands. He gets a better appreciation of what Spider-Man actually means to him instead of Spider-Man being thrust upon him. He takes the Spider-Man mantle, and chooses it instead of it choosing him. And he gets the girl in the end. To me, I feel like this is as close to a perfect movie as you could get in the 2000s. And even today, it holds up still. I mean, it's a good classic story. And then at the end, the villain is redeemed. He saves the day. I mean, it's just a great film in almost every scope of the word. It has its flaws, but there's not many. And you walk away.
Even the flaws are not big enough to justify it not being a good movie. Like,
Right.
every movie has its give and takes, whether it's good or not. But it's like, I feel like this movie, like, it's a pendulum, and like that pendulum, I feel like perfectly balances. Even with the problems that it has, it still kind of swings back with other things. And when you get that perfect balance, like Thanos says, everything is right in the universe. And I feel like this movie hit that perfect balance.
Yeah, when you can. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, who was gonna talk right before when I was? Was it you or was it Block?
I can go. I guess I was just gonna say that Doc Ock's also a good villain because, like Thanos, you can kind of sympathize with him and you kind of see where he's coming from. Obviously, unlike Thanos, he's not trying to kill everybody. He thinks like I guess like Thanos, he's doing what he thinks is best for everybody, just like a demented way. It just makes him more relatable. I think that's the best villain rather than just making a generic villain who's like, I'm going to conquer the world because I hate everybody, like kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like I can say before this film, like I don't know much about Spider-Man, and I've told you this before, Cheeto, which is funny because I think I've done most of your Spider-Man videos with you. Yeah, but you keep asking, you're like, let me find the guy who knows nothing about Spider-Man so I can impress him with my knowledge.
I was about to say, I have to look impressive somehow.
He's got to shoot his webbing.
Yeah.
There you go. Standing next to me, you'll always look impressive, no matter what you do. I gotta say, but I thought when Spider-Man came out, the first one, Green Goblin is of course a great villain, because that's who Spider-Man is always known to fight. It's like Batman and Joker. But when they announced Doc Ock, I was like, I don't give a shit about Doc Ock because I didn't know anything about him. And this movie made me a fan of Doc Ock. And that's always the sign of a good movie, is when you can take a villain and make you care. Just like in Spider-Man 3, I cared about Sandman at the end of that movie, because they made me care about the character. And now when I see a Sandman in the comic book, I stop and browse through it because of that film. That's impressive in a movie. And movies these days, they don't always hit that mark, And so that's something Spider-Man 2 did.
So what'd you guys think of that train fight scene, though? I mean, come on.
Well, I loved. I gotta say, it cracks me up every time. More so than the fight scene, it's the after effect of the fight scene when they're dragging, Toby through the train, and he's like, "Oh, this kid's my boy's age," and I'm like, "What? Is your boy like 40 years old? Like, what the hell? Like, what?" So I don't think I can really answer that. Good fight.
Is your boy a 40-year-old pretending to be a high schooler?
Somebody needs to call social services on you, dude. Like, there's some creepy shit going on in your house. Yeah.
All right. So we do have somebody from Twitch who's saying, Polar Knight, sweet Jesus, it is the evolution of beards. So little, and then I think Vance, you're the end of the evolution. You got the mother beard.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Polar Knights. That's what we're here for. We're just here for beards. That's why this show is called Beards and Feards.
Okay.
Beard podcast. I don't know.
All right.
So let's transition, like you were talking about Green Goblin. We didn't really touch very much on him since we're kind of all over the place with this one, but I like what we're doing here because instead of just breaking down each movie and dragging on and on and on, we actually have a chance to talk about all facets of all the movies. Green Goblin, William Defoe. I really liked him as Norman Osborn. I thought I wouldn't. And then I remember seeing the movie and going, yeah, that's Norman Osborn pretty much. Kind of crazy,
yeah.
Kind of dual personality. William Defoe's got a creepy face. Honestly, I feel like they could have just put paint on his face, like green paint, and it would have been fine. Like I'd have been like, that's the Green Goblin right there. He's got like some like orange goggles on, and he's got the green face. Just puts some purple cap on, and he's like, yeah, that's Goblin. I got it. Yep, I see it.
The thing that works for him is, besides his laugh and whatnot, when he's looking at himself in the mirror and he's talking and he's just being fucking creepy, William Defoe-esque, that's what made it work. That's what sold you on. This dude is nuts, and he's going after this kid in a Spider-Man costume. Holy shit. You couldn't have cast anyone else better.
Well, that's why they're bringing him back for no.
Yeah.
I mean, they're bringing a lot of them back, but
yeah. Well, they're really only picking the best of the best, in my opinion. But I mean, how jazzed were we? I mean, we were excited when we saw, Doc Ock coming back. But when you saw the Green Goblin, like in that poster, I was excited because I was like, please tell me this isn't a fan edit. Please tell me this isn't. And then you saw him in the actual trailer, and I'm like, yes, I'm so excited, because like he was what sold you on that film. Because it's great to have Spidey, it's great to have the CGI for the time. That was the best thing about that movie. Second to Norman Osborn, because he sold that movie, much like Jack Nicholson sold the 1989 Batman.
And he looks nothing like Bruce Wayne, like nothing.
What are you talking about? It's spot on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all the way down to the curly hair.
I love it. The puff. Yeah, I love it.
And I really felt the chemistry between William Defoe and James Franco.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt that chemistry in the movie. And even in the subsequent movies, and even the little that we got him in Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3.
The loss of his father still felt.
And I thought it was really good. I mean, seeing him in the No Way Home trailer, I have to admit, I was kind of hoping he had a different outfit, but I guess I know what they're doing. They're kind of bringing him back in his current outfit, and I'm sure that he'll have some kind of evolution into like a maybe more modern Goblin outfit. But I mean, here's the thing though, is that we do have a couple villains. So, I don't want to get into that yet. I'll just talk about the villains that are in these movies that are not in the No Way Home trailer. But I mean, Block. Any more? You want to chime in on Green Goblin at all, or did you already? I think you haven't said anything yet on that.
Well, I just wanted to say, since doesn't Norman Osborn and Osborn Incorporated have access to like military technology? How can he not take out a teenager in a spider suit?
It is a very good point, but it is Toby Maguire. So I mean, he would every time I go after him, he'd be like, "You want it? Who am I? Do you really want to know?" And then he starts crying, and then Osborn's like, "Oh,
can't hurt the kid." Yeah.
But all right. So we touched on Goblin. We touched on Ock. Do we need to touch on Sandman? I don't want to get into the big one yet. The next big one's going to be a toughie to get through. But
I think we kind of touched on Sandman.
Yeah, I don't think we really need to. I liked a lot of his fight scenes. I thought they were very creative and clever, especially in the sewer. The sewer fight scene with Black Suit Spider-Man and Sandman. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I get it. Like Vance, I can tell you're very more character driven, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, I can see it. Like, for me, it's like I want to see my panels come to life. When Spider-Man's fighting these guys, I want to see my panels to life. And like I felt like that they did a lot of that with especially with Spider-Man 2. Like there was a lot of panels that were coming to life in some of those fight scenes. But in Spider-Man 3, the fight scene between Black Suit Spider-Man and Sandman was really good in the sewer. And like, I'll give you one thing. I could like when Toby Maguire had the black suit on. I know I'm getting back on Toby, but when he had that black suit on and he was acting like an inner asshole, I thought it worked. I really did. I thought it worked because maybe Toby's just an asshole. I don't know, and it's just his natural abilities coming out. But I mean, I could really felt that. And when he was like raging out on Sandman in the sewer, I was like. Yeah. He might actually kill the Sandman.
Pushing him against the train.
Yeah, pushing him up against the train going and everything. I was like, what's happening here? And then to go to the dance scene, I think that's why it was so jarring. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, so yeah. So let's talk about the last one of these villains, and that's Venom.
Well, before we do that, I'll tell you one thing I think was kind of missing from the Toby movies, and I hope at some point we do have a moment like this. I felt like we kind of approached it somewhat with the Andrew movies, but in some of my favorite Spider-Man moments in the comics, you'll have Spider-Man kind of just go stand out on the balcony or something, and he'll kind of just sit there, and he'll take his mask off, and like maybe Daredevil will show up, or maybe Deadpool, and they'll just kind of look over at him, and they'll just kind of look at each other and have kind of like, man, this is fucked up, and then they'll have like a 2-second conversation, then Spider-Man's off to do something. I'd love for something like that to happen, especially if it was Deadpool and that's the way you bring him in, or Daredevil, or something like that. Like, I feel like that was what was missing, and I agree with you. Like, seeing our panels come to life is why we go see these movies. For me, I am a very character-oriented, I love the characters. I love it when they sit and talk and you analyze. But we all go see these for, the best part of Spider-Man is when he's swinging through the city, I mean, obviously, I don't watch Spider-Man from the 1970s, that old TV show. I'm not watching that Spider-Man. I'm watching the modern Spider-Man, where CGI is just phenomenal. But I'd love for something like that where it's just a fun moment, where it's just they're two people in costumes just being real with excuse me, they're just being real with each other, and they're just like, holy shit, what do we do now? Fuck, all right, gotta go. And then they zip off, and in their own different directions, where it's like, what the hell was he doing there? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. It's just he's on his own adventure, you're on your adventure, and then off you go. And to me, it's like shit like that is why the Marvel Universe works, is because it's like, and then down at the bottom it says, go read, Daredevil number whatever, or, Deadpool number whatever. And then, you go pick up that comic because you're like, what the fuck's he doing in Brooklyn or whatever, like, to me, that's why, Stan Lee was such a great comic book writer, because he did little stuff like that. He allowed those crossovers to happen. So I feel
that's
like
why Vance Major's a great fan film creator.
Bless your heart, Cheeto.
Cha-ching.
But I feel like something like that I feel like that's what was missing from Toby's films, is more heart moments like that. Obviously, you couldn't do that with the heroes that were out at the time, but I feel like we do now. So, I feel like if we had something like that with, some hero or something, You know
which one I think they should do that with him, if they do something like that, is the Human Torch.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the Human Torch. I think it's like, let's say the Spider-Man Far From Home's out, and I'm pretty sure they haven't had Fantastic Four, but let's say you go to like, the Fantastic Four movie when it comes out, and then you see this moment where all of a sudden like Peter and Johnny Storm just, they're flying ones, they kind of just sitting on a roof, and they're just like, Peter's like, I have no idea what to do with this or whatever, and the Human Torch is like, tell me about it. We just got these powers, and and I don't know what to do with it, and then Spider-Man's like, well, I used to be new to this hero thing too, and this is what I did, and they have that quick conversation just about, and they're just two like young guys just having a conversation about trying to navigate their way through this. Like, Spider-Man's trying to help Johnny through like this new aged powers that they've gotten. What if they go for the origin route of the Fantastic Four? Now, if the Fantastic Four supposedly been around for a while, stuck in the negative zone or whatever, I mean, then there's a different conversation. But then you go to like the next Spider-Man movie and you have that moment on the other side. I would love for that. That would be something that would be so deep cut, and so, or if it's like in the Fantastic Four movie, you make the other end of that conversation like the post-credit scene of the Spider-Man movie or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I remember that from the Fantastic Four movie. But then you kind of get to see what Spider-Man was doing before he got there with Johnny.
Yeah, it's a perfect way. It's a perfect way to segue where you're like, oh, I remember that, and those are the little Easter egg things where comics do that all the time, where you see those things, and that,
Mhm.
like I said, I think that's what was missing. The only thing I feel like was missing from those movies, because they couldn't do that at the time, because Fox wouldn't do the X-Men shit crossover. They couldn't. Which was sad, because we all thought at the time, man, if they could only do that, and now here we are, and they're only doing that. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead. What were you going to talk about? Venom now?
Block, do you have anything else to add, or?
I was just going to say, these letterboxes on my screen are annoying. I'll have to get rid of them next time. And two, I just realized, like a few minutes ago, that the actor that played the Human Torch in the original Fantastic Four is also Captain America.
Yep. Wouldn't that be a great conversation to have? Like, but now, I mean, Captain America is retired now. Spoiler alert for Endgame.
I'm just saying, in the multiverse, it's possibilities.
It is a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay, so Venom. Let's talk about Venom.
I'm still of the mind of it's not Venom, and it's not a slant at the actor. To me, it's the writing. It all boils. What's that now?
I actually like Topher Grace. But when they cast him, I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Far too many people they blast an actor for taking on a role, and it's like, to me, it's like, man, if someone's offering me buku $1 million, hey, I'm gonna take it, even though I know it's shit. Screw it, And the thing is, like, they could have made it work if the script is right. To me, it's a matter of, you got a director that doesn't want to do it. You've got a production company that's too much meddling in this. If
a
you were
cast
doing
that's burnt out. Yeah.
What's that now?
I was going to say the cast was pretty much burnt out, so they were winging it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially Mary Jane. She looked like she was screaming for the exit before we were in the audience. To me, it's like, I can't fault him. But to me, that script is what sunk the movie, not him. So I can't fault him.
Yeah, well, that's why I really feel like I don't know. I really felt like that movie should have been about Sandman, and maybe if you had to have Sandman and Harry Osborn. See, here in my fan thought, I had 5 movies planned out for Toby Maguire's Spider-Man. So the first 3 the way they were. Well, not the way they were. The first 2 the way they were. Second one was Harry Osborn and Sandman. Third one, he gets the black costume, but the villains are Kraven the Hunter and the Lizard, because they've been building up to that for the past couple movies.
Right.
And I think those are 2 villains that could work well together.
Right.
And then the 5th one was just all Venom.
Well, that was
from there.
Well, that was something else that was really disappointing. I like the actor that they had playing Doc Connors. And they just dropped the ball. They never did anything with it.
Yeah, it wasn't William H. Macy, but it's the guy that reminds me of him. I don't remember his name, but he reminds me of William H. Macy. That actor's probably watching this going, God damn it, why do I always get confused with William H. Macy?
Yeah, because Lord knows with him and his awards, he doesn't watch anything else besides Thwips and Quips or Beards and Weirds.
Beards and Weirds. There we go. That's a good name. I'm terrible at making things up on the fly, as you can tell. And I actually didn't even have a problem with the way they beat Venom. It made a lot of sense. I didn't have an issue with the way that they killed Harry Osborn, because even though it wasn't comic book purist, with the drugs and everything like that, I felt like he still went out a hero, because in the comic books, Harry Osborn came to his senses at the last minute and saved Mary Jane and his son, I believe. So I feel like at the end of this, I feel like Harry went out the same way as in the comic book, saving Mary Jane. So I feel like it was definitely a way that they definitely paid homage to the way that happened in the comic books, and I'm okay with that. I was kind of more of a comic book purist when I first started watching the X-Men movies, but after X-Men 3, I was just like, oh God, I can't. Just let it be a good movie. I need a good movie.
And you're still waiting for that good movie.
No, X-Men had a couple good ones after X3.
Really? I think that's a whole new series we need to do after Spider-Man No Way Home comes out. We need to delve into those, my friend, because Whew.
We did a tier list on the X-Men movies. You could probably get all. I mean, I would love to do. What's Wolverine's claws? Skinks and is it skink?
Skinks and skewers. I don't know.
Skinks and skinks and skanks. I don't know because Rogue and Psylocke and they're all wearing barely any clothes. So there we go.
Wait, you guys have already done a top tier for X-Men?
Yeah.
Well, on which channel is this on? Have I heard of this channel?
It would be NerdTube, the greatest new YouTube channel you've never fucking heard of.
Oh, I see.
How can I find this NerdTube? Is it sold at stores?
Well, if you're watching this video, you're probably on it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we have a tier list of the X-Men movies that we did a while back. I mean, it was a while back, but all right. So, any thoughts on Venom? Open the floor up to my betters over here.
To me, it was extremely disappointing. I didn't really mind. I was disappointed that with the space shuttle in the last one, Venom didn't come with that, or the symbiote didn't come with that. And you had the perfect setup right there. Why didn't you bring the symbiote with that? But you didn't. It was just a comet. And the next one, what the fuck is that? You had the perfect setup, even if you didn't want to do it for like 2 or 3 movies later. So come on, you guys had the perfect setup. You didn't do it. To me, the disappointing thing was, and I think I've said this to you like 2 or 3 times, pulling back the Venom mask to expose Topher Grace and then to have him have like vampire teeth. What? Come on, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, I didn't pay to see Topher Grace. I paid to see fucking Venom.
Well,
and
I'm sure if they put Topher Grace on the screen more, you'd like him more.
Yeah. No. No. So, the thing is with that, I get really tired of actors, and I don't blame Topher, because again, I don't know why, so I can't blame him unless I hear something for him saying I wanted my face out there, because I know in Batman and Robin, Alicia Silverstone didn't want the cowl. She was just wanted the eye mask, which I was really pissed about that, because I'm like, you got paid how much? You didn't fake an accent from overseas, which if you're going to say you're from England, why don't you have an accent? Like, what? So you can't even fake that, even though you're getting paid more money than I'll make my entire life. And you didn't have the cowl for Batgirl, which is, again, an important part of the character.
Not even red hair.
No. So, I mean, to me, it's like, you are the laziest fucking actress. So for Eddie Brock, why did they do that? So to me, I don't know. And that really bothers me, because I wanted that.
I haven't heard anything negative towards Topher Grace to that regard. I feel like it was just the fact that they wanted to put Topher Grace on the screen more, because they wanted that they wanted to get the FaceTime for that actor. But I haven't heard anything.
And that's a shame. That's like saying, hey, we're gonna have Spider-Man, but we're gonna cut a hole right here in his face, so you see constant Toby. The only one that would be happy with that would be Cheeto.
Well, no, I mean, like you see that a lot though. Like in it's like the first movie, his mask gets all messed up, and you can still see most of Toby's face. And the second one, his mask is off when he's facing Doc Ock in the final fight sequence. The entire time. And the third one, isn't his mask tore up again? Like, I mean, he's always, by the end of the movie, he's always got like his mask off or ripped or made so you can see his face and you can see it's Toby Maguire. Like.
Well, but I would argue the point, if you're in a major battle scene, I can forgive that. I can forgive that, because I mean that's supposed to be your climax. That's supposed to be your I'm going all out, guns ablazing. I can forgive that. Or if you're in an explosion, again, I can forgive that. But I mean, every time Venom says hi to a stranger, he's pulling back that face. So, I mean, that to me is like, wait, what? That's like saying every time Spider-Man, a bug hits his mask, it rips off. Like, what the hell? Flimsy is this material? So, I'd have to argue that the circumstances are a little bit different with Venom. So.
Well, and that's what I appreciate about the new Venom movies, because if you notice, like whenever he's in Venom, like whenever he's Venom, he's Venom. You don't like, you know, the only time you ever see that is when he's like, when he's, you know, Eddie Brock, but then like the head comes out and starts talking to him, you know, like, I mean, that's really the only time you ever see that. But it's like normally when he's in Venom outfit, he is all up in Venom outfit. You don't see his head pull back a bunch of times and all that other stuff, except at the end of the movie where like half of his face. But,
right.
So, Block, you got anything to add about Venom?
No, like the point you make. Why does he keep revealing who he is? Like, do we forget? Like,
we forgot that that's that 70s show guy.
By the way,
it's all that pot we were smoking before.
What happened if it would have been the butler instead? He revealed, "Hey there, Harry, it's me."
Oh God, that would have. There's a parody of that somewhere. Or a porn. There's got to be. Okay, so kind of just to wrap
that's
up,
what we need. We need a movie about that fucking butler. God damn it! Like that's why I'm mad. Like, why didn't we get a movie about that guy? You know,
like where he's been the whole time.
the butler and Aunt May. Hell yeah, that's because that Aunt May. I
know.
The boots come a knocking. That could be the title. Fuck yeah.
The boobs hit the boot. The boobs bopping the boots.
What?
I don't know. The boobs hanging down. And
you are gonna get good at this one of these days, Cheeto. You are.
I will never be good at this. I keep telling Zam's like, mate, you gotta do it in practice. I'm like, dude, I've been practicing for a long time. I ain't never gonna get good at this, man.
You can keep practicing on us, man. We will take these because we're gonna write these down and then we're just gonna slam you everything. I like it. I love it.
So with Spider-Man No Way Home coming out, we're gonna cap off on this. Unless you guys have anything else to add about the original Spider-Man movies. Obviously, all of us have seen the trailers, correct? Like we know which villains from these movies. So we have Sandman and we have Doc Ock and Green Goblin coming from these movies that we know of so far. Now there's Venom. And I'm sure they're not going to bring him like that Venom back from these movies because they don't want to touch out with a 10-foot pole. And who else?
But how cool would it be if he did pull back and it was Topher Gracie? Like he just, God damn it! Or if they pulled back and it was the butler. Fuck yeah, we get a double whammy. God dang it, hell yeah!
Or Tom Hardy's Venom shows up, and then this other skinnier Venom shows up, and he's like, I'm gonna help, and then like Venom just eats him, like he just grabs him and just like, and he's like, his symbiote tastes different but yummy.
I like it.
But yeah. So what do you guys want? Like, here's one of my concerns with this, and I'm going to start with this one is with Sandman, because all we got to, and I'm hoping that Hayden Christian, no, not Hayden, Thomas Christian Church. I'm hoping he is back in this movie because he portrayed a fantastic Sandman. We haven't seen him yet. We've only seen like the dust cloud or whatever. So do we think that we are actually going to get, Thomas Hayden Church, or do we think that we are going? Zam will be happy I got the name right finally instead of Hayden Christian Church.
You mean Hayden Christensen? That's what we called him last time. Yeah.
Yeah. But if Thomas Hayden Church, I really want that actor back because he played a really good Sandman. I believe he's still alive and all that. So get him in there. Like I like that actor. I like his portrayal of Sandman. I don't want him to be just a giant fart cloud of sand. I mean, Block, what do you think about some of these villains coming back?
I mean, are they trying to set up like a Sinister Six kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, that's what they're rolling for, is what I figure.
I mean, I'd like to see some characters that like haven't. I mean, so far I have no problem with it, what they got, but maybe bring in characters less known, like the Jackal, or like you said, Kraven the Hunter. I mean, I have no problem with where they're going with now, but I hope in the future, maybe in future movies or whatnot, they bring in some lesser known villains that are good.
Well, and I'm kind of glad that we are getting these villains. It's a double-edged sword with me. I'm kind of glad we are getting these villains because we don't need a lot of backstory. We know them. We know them. we don't need this super backstory. We can have a bunch of villains, Spider-Man villains now in the MCU possibly, and we don't have to worry about it. However, this is yet another example, and I've said this many times before, of Spider-Man borrowing villains. Now Spider-Man's borrowing villains from himself because, the first two movies was basically Spider-Man, dealing with Iron Man's leftovers because Mysterio and Vulture were definitely Tony Stark Iron Man villains. They should have been, at least if Tony was, well, I guess he was around, but he didn't have time for him. Or he was dead, one of the two. And now with this one, it seems like we're just borrowing from all the other Spider-Man and all Spider-Man. I'm hoping that we will see the Vulture and Mysterio again in this. The problem is that, you've got a conglomerate. It's not just the Sinister Six at that point. It's the conglomerate six.
Isn't Scorpion part of the Sinister Six? Or Rhino or whatever?
Not usually. In the animated series, he was a part of the Insidious Six, but so was Shocker. And those are two characters that really aren't a part of the Sinister Six in their main iterations.
Okay.
So, Shocker and Scorpion and Lizard are not a part of the Sinister Six, usually at all. I think maybe they had a stint once with them, but that's when they got desperate on the recruitment.
Yeah, I was just going off the animated series. I thought they were in that.
Yeah, they were in the Insidious Six.
My bad.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, crazy. So I don't know, Vance. What do you think? Any concerns you have with all these villains coming back? Because I know that a lot of them were dead. Which honestly is, they say that, in the trailer, it says, Doctor Strange says they are supposed to die fighting Spider-Man. Sandman didn't die.
Well, first off, looking at all the Doc Ock, he's got a little bit different technologies that kind of says Tony Stark. Same thing with Electro's. He's got something there that kind of says, again, Tony Stark. I think we're getting variants of the characters we know. I don't think they're going to be the characters we know. So that opens up.
You think they're going to be variants like Loki?
Yeah. Well, why else set up Loki? Besides the whole multiverse thing. All you have to do is say, well, this is a variant. Oh, okay. So all of us know what that means. So we're like, okay, got it. So you got to do is throw that one word up. Oh, got it. No problem. We move on. So, in my opinion, I think this opens up the door for them to jumpstart other villains. I don't think most of these villains are gonna stick around. I think this is the final hurrah to fix what was mistaken before and let go. Because I think what was her name? Octavia, or what was her name in the Into the Spider-Verse?
Octavia. I'm pretty sure what her name was. Female Doc Ock.
Right. I think it's very possible that we can see a live action version of her seeing Otto Octavius. Because again, we could bring him back, but they would have to de-age. And I don't think they want to do that. But I think me personally, I think he's going to help the heroes. Much like he did in Spider-Man 2. But I think you're going to see Octavia come into the scene and be like, fuck that. You're going to have to deal with me in a future movie, being inspired from Otto. I think you're going to see, maybe, this version of Harry looking at Norman and seeing like a what if. Like I think these villains are going to inspire the Sinister Six, but I don't think these villains are necessarily going to be the Sinister Six, at least not all of them. So I think these are going to have ramifications, but I don't think these villains are going to stick around. So I see your concern for he's borrowing from himself, but I don't think these are going to be the Sinister Six. Because think about it. Think about Harry, or think about Norman. He was so disappointed in his Harry. What if he found Harry in this universe and was like, I need to groom you to be the next me, where my Harry failed?
Stranger danger.
Right.
You're not my dad.
But wouldn't that make sense? Especially if it was someone that was like Dahan, where his dad died. His dad, who was Norman, died, and then here comes this other version of Norman comes and says, "Here, do this." So you have two variants, that need each other, and then, to me that makes sense for going forward. So that's what I think. I don't think this is going to be the Sinister Six, but I think it's a jumping off point from what came before. So that's what I would do if I was a storyteller.
Okay, I smell what the Vance is cooking.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it lines up perfectly with, giving nods to what came before with Toby and Andrew, but not necessarily staying there.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I would not mind if Alfred Molina stayed on as Doc Ock, but I see your point of kind of like passing the torch onto Octavia, which I have no problem with that. I like Octavia, the idea of Octavia, because honestly, there was a female Doc Ock for a long time in the comic books, and she was pretty badass. And actually, she came back years later in a comic called Spider-Girl, where she played the role of like a Doc Ock, an older scientist and yada yada, but she was, so by the way, Spider-Girl, I'm gonna bring that to one of these Quips and Thwips. I didn't bring anything today, but like I'm gonna bring Spider-Girl comics. They're so good. I love them. Oh, it is the first love of my life. Not really, but I fell in love with comic books with that one. Like actually in love. Anyway, but yeah, so I don't know. I with the lizard being there, like I'm just hoping it's like the lizard leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm glad that Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro, because I feel like he could get a second chance in the right hands, in the right hands of the right director, could be given a second chance. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if Jamie Foxx's Electro stuck around, as long as they redeem the character from Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope, like, I get what you're saying with Norman Osborn and taking the other Harry Osborn under his wing and everything. I don't know if I want Norman to stick around, but William Defoe's getting kind of old. Like, let's say, like, I kind of feel like we need to, like, I kind of feel like now if you want another Norman Osborn to come in, I'm okay with that, but they really need to lay the groundwork because we've been teased this Oscorp and Norman Osborn in the MCU and all. We can't have William Defoe as Norman Osborn in the MCU. I don't feel like that's the right move.
Well, that's why I said I feel like this is going to be we're going to start the stuff here. If he were to start training Harry for all this stuff, like you don't need to see him, or even if he dies in this one. Having that be the motivation for the new Green Goblin or, Hobgoblin. I mean, rumor has it that Ned is going to turn into the Hobgoblin by the end of this in the after credits, which personally I hope they do. I think that would be perfect tragedy. And again, jumping for the new stage of villains for him, I think that would be perfect.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for villains that are created for MCU Spider-Man themselves, not just borrowing from, other characters. From the past in this movie and borrowing from Tony Stark. I want created villains in these Spider-Man movies, and I get it. They're laying the ground, and I see what you're saying with the groundwork and everything, but I want them to lay the foundation in the MCU, not just like bringing in a mobile home and like sitting it down like on the MCU already. I want them to build the foundation and to make it like a sturdy and Ned Leeds is you're absolutely right. Ned Leeds is a good one to like. You've had 3 movies with these 2 characters to build up. Now you're right, it's the ultimate like betrayal and tragedy for him to now become the Hobgoblin. I mean, that would be kind of crazy actually. Another thought that I had was with the Green Goblin is I wonder if maybe there is an MCU Hobgoblin or Norman Osborn, and while William Defoe's in there, he sends a message or he meets up with the Norman Osborn of the MCU, and we finally get that reveal because they've been teasing it forever. They really need to just get this over with, because I'm sick and tired of waiting for them to actually move on the whole Norman Osborn and the MCU thing. I know it's got to be a big reveal. Spider-Man 3, kind of No Way Home, kind of has to be the place where that is, because they've been teasing it since the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Steve Steve stopped by. He just says, "Hi, I'm just checking in, but I'm heading for bed. I'll watch this later."
Hey,
you know
Steve.
what? I might actually watch this later too. We'll have to see. I mean, okay. Any other concerns? Like a Block, you got anything else you want from this movie, even though it has a bunch of borrowed villains in it? And...
No, I'm excited to see it. It looks good, and so far the MCU hasn't made any turds, you know, like a better word. They've all been, you know, either okay movies are really great. Like you never walked away and said, "I'm disappointed." You're always like, you know, that was a good movie, or wow, that was really great. You know, like
No,
it was
Iron
always
Man 3 is mine, but that's really the only one I can remember. Anyway.
And then I'd also like to comment. I'm glad we got the hopefully a meme going on of Butler Venom or Venom Butler. Hopefully that trends.
I don't know. I might start that and just be like,
hey,
have Venom show up in the, you know, Tom Holland Spider-Man, and then all of a sudden it comes back and it's the Butler, and everyone's gonna be like, "What is this?" Be like, "Go to our video. You're
gonna have 2 likes, and it's gonna be me and him."
Because no one else is gonna know what we're talking about. Yeah,
it's all good.
So, all right, guys. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up unless you guys have any other closing thoughts.
I'm good.
Thank you very much for joining me. I'm glad we kind of shifted gears on this and talked about all 3. I feel like it encompassed each other really well. I feel like if we would have broke this down every week, it would have been a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So next week we'll probably be coming back for the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I've only seen Amazing Spider-Man 2 once, and I really have never revisited it. And then I've seen the first one maybe a couple times. So I might have to go back and rewatch both of those, unlike the Maguire movies, which I've seen many times over the years. So yeah. V-Man, Block, thank you very much for joining me for this Quips and Thwips. As I said, we're doing our countdown to No Way Home, where we are going to be diving into the multiverse of spiders, or a Spider-Verse, if you will. All right, everyone. Well, we will catch you guys in the next one. Don't forget, later on this week, we are doing reviews on Hawkeye. Actually, tomorrow we're doing reviews on Hawkeye. Thursday, we have Thursday's Trek Day. And then Friday, I think we have a wrestling thing going on, NWO versus DX, and we're going to have discussions all about that. And over the weekend, who knows? We got some other shenanigans going on. We got a fan film reaction coming out. We've got just some other stuff. So definitely keep an eye on the channel. And if you've watched this long on the video, thank you very much. It means a lot to me. I don't even think I've watched this video this long so far. So anyway, we will catch you guys in the next one. Catch you later.
Later.